Good evening, all of you tonight. Welcome to our podcast, Learn to Teach for Success. We are having our weekly podcast on different topics about education, about what I learn, about what is it like to be a learner, what is it like to be a teacher, what to notice, and also leadership in the classroom or in our lives. So these are the top topics for today. We have some sound, so that's wonderful. Perfect. So the when I look at my podcast, I always divide it in three parts. First part is about learning, second part about teaching, and the third one is about leadership. I think it's a great way to divide a topic. Last week, I did mention that I was giving a workshop on literacy, and I decided to share with you what I've learned by giving that workshop. In some ways, it was like a mastermind, and it was interesting because at the workplace, you say, well, we're getting together, we have a meeting, but when it is a meeting where you learn, then it becomes a mastermind because everybody in the group can learn from each other. So my workshop was, or my mastermind was on literacy. And I shared with my colleagues how literacy is at the forefront of learning. And let me tell you why. When you are someone between 0 and 1 year old, most of what you learn is from hearing and also from observing. On the other hand, as you grow older, then you start speaking, in which case you need to have heard enough. You need to have you need to have heard enough of the language to understand vocabulary so that you can actually be able to understand more words, but also make the sentences so that when you speak, people can understand your message. Now, once you can listen to a language and speak the language, then you have learned that you can observe your environment. Then people start to learn to read. They learn to read because that's a great way to share stories. And when you're younger, you listen to stories that people tell you, and eventually you can read them yourself. And finally, you can write your own stories, or you can write your own ideas on paper. So these are the four basic skills when you think about literacy. And as I was talking to my colleagues, many of them, well, not many, but people that were there mentioned that often when we think of literacy, we think about the idea that can someone read a text and understand the message? And can they write the ideas so that the reader can understand their message? And it's quite important because that is true. It's so much easy, say, telling someone, see, just read this and write something about it for whatever reason, a text and so on. On the other hand, if you think of students when they're in elementary school or even high school, then they start getting a better understanding of the language. But often we do focus on reading and writing much more than speaking the information. Too often, these students will go in a classroom, they will listen, they watch videos, they listen. But what happens is that once you know about a topic, you want to be able to speak about that. So this year I've been working with more presentations that I have ever done in the past. And the reason for that is I want students to be able to play with the knowledge, play with the language, because work with the French immersion program, but also be able to practice enough so that they can play with the language. Because if you get to play, even though you make a few mistakes here and there, the message gets across, you build confidence, and then it's easier for them to continue discussing, communicating, regardless if it's using their words or writing. So these are the topics I want to share here. And what I've learned as well in that workshop is that often we do think in a classroom that reading and writing is often something that refers to literacy, and we forget that literacy also includes the words that are spoken and the words that are so when you listen, and for understanding, and you speak for understanding. And that was the key aspect here, because my colleague mentioned that often literacy is thought of reading and writing, because often if you look at standardized testing, it's about reading and writing and not about discussing. Now, I know that there are a few programs around the world. For example, in Europe, there are programs for about language competencies, and it's called, for example, the Common European Framework of Reference. So you do a testing about your writing skills, reading skills, speaking skills, and listening skills, so that you can put that on your resume. That's a great way to know your competencies in the language. There are also some programs, for example, the IB program, where when you have a language course, all the literacy skills are included. Now, if you look at some um, standardized testing, for example, in Ontario, we have uh, we have the one in math and the one in literacy. And the literacy test is about reading and writing, and the numeracy test is about reading questions and answering questions, all of which doesn't give any opportunities to students to say the answers or being able to listen to people discussing a question to be able to answer that. Now, I'm not saying that there's one way better than the others, but if you think of literacy, you have to look at the overall, all the dimensions related to the situation. So that brings me to the second topic tonight about teaching. And here, the idea here is when you want, as a teacher, if you want to become better about literacy, first of all, you need to know what literacy is. But then, too often, teachers end up with interpreting literacy by themselves within their classes. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and we were discussing how too often teachers go to a teacher's college, for example, and then they learn different skills, and then they're put in a classroom, and for the first few years there are a few programs to help them get better at their skills. But after a while, then, because of unions and so on, evaluations, so someone coming to see me, for example, in my classroom, is done every 5 years. And we're discussing how this is often a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity, for example, for me to go and see other veteran teachers, teachers that have been teaching for a long time, or people that have skills that I don't have. There's amazing teachers with amazing vibrancy in their classroom. Things like, for example, drama teachers, and it's quite out of my comfort zone. And I would learn a lot to go in their classes to see how they do things. In economics, a math class, a history class, a cooking class, in the shop to see how things are, because every teacher is in their own specialties. They learn different skills that works best for them. Within the department, people discuss about their ideas, their skills, but what happens is that when you go outside of your department, it's sometimes harder to speak with other teachers or actually find a way to go and visit them in their classroom for all kind of reasons. We're busy. Sometimes people don't like when people may judge them. Sometimes people say, well, what will the person do? And, or what will the person say? And it's sometimes let's see, some people may be anxious about that. When I look at teachers being evaluated, some people are nervous, other people are just laid back. And it just shows how this idea of being able to go into another teacher's class so that you can observe what is being done. You can see how the interactions are between students and teacher. When you can discuss with the teachers in their classroom or discuss with the teacher's students, if that's possible, if everybody is willing, so that overall we can get a better experience for the students. I remember a few years back in the French immersion program, there was 1 year where I was teaching science, math, geography, and French. So it was part of the French immersion program. 4 courses. I had 6, but I'm picking those 4 out of the 6. And I remember that because I was part of four different departments. Four departments where they each had a different way to look at evaluations, different ways to address how to help specific students, how to address lesson, how to address evaluations. So it was interesting to see because they were all doing different things. And at the end, we have to realize that every department are doing their best in what they know, but then we can learn so much from each other. And I think that's a missed opportunity. And as a teacher, if you have a chance, go and see some of your colleagues to see how they do things. For the same way, if you're a trainer or you are maybe, let's say, a team manager, if you have a chance to go and see another manager discussing with a teammate or leading a meeting, if you have a chance to see other leaders do what they do best, then you have an opportunity to learn how they do things, and then you can improve on what you can do. YouTube is a great way to learn skills from different people. And we have Dodgers, so we have Cindy tonight. Nice to see you, Cindy, tonight. I'm doing a podcast on uh, learning, teaching, and leadership. And I have to say that one of the reasons that I got the confidence to do so was through Cindy, or from Prairie Dodgers. And the reason for that, she has a daily show on her channel. If you have a chance, go and see her. It's always very nice. So nice to see you tonight, Cindy. So I was mentioning how, as a teacher or leader, if you have a chance to go and see other leaders and teachers doing what they do best, it's the best way to see what they do and learn from them. Because when you see amazing people in action, you can learn so much about how they do things, and you can improve also what you do. You're very welcome, Cindy. The other part, so we go to the third section of my podcast today, and it is about leadership. I always like to bring an idea of a leadership topic, and the reason for that is that all of us within our family, within our community, within our job, we are all leaders in some ways. And when we're a leader, the best way is to observe what is happening around us and see how we can help other people. Like, too often people say, well, a wealthy person, often they learn to appreciate by sharing what they have. They don't give money away, but they can guide people to do better from their experiences. As a leader and a teacher, having a chance to be with other teachers, sharing with each other what we know, then it allows people not to be a learner and stay a learner, or be a teacher and stay a teacher, or be a leader and be only a leader. But then everybody can interact with each other, because at every level we can learn so much. So from here, the thought I have for you about leadership is the following. When you are part of a group, have a chance before you speak to look at the group and listen and be curious about what other people can bring to your life, bring as ideas of way of doing things and so on. By being curious, then judgment goes away completely. Because when you're curious, often you are asking questions because you want to know more, and you want to know the best outcome of a situation. So by being curious is often the best way to be a leader, compared to someone who says, well, here are my ideas and this is what you have to do, a bit like a dictatorship. It does work for many people. And I was listening to an interview, and I don't remember who was there, but the person was saying that they spend many years in their teams telling people what to do, and they thought this was their job until someone pointed out to him. And then he realized that instead of telling people what to do, is to be curious about what the team members can bring to the team. And then you realize that the team got better, and he got even better as a leader because he allowed everybody to be part of the conversations. And I think as a leader, being if you let's see, you make people comfortable to collaborate with each other, I think that's the best outcome for everybody. And I think this will be the end of my podcast tonight. Cindy, Very nice to have seen you tonight. And every so often, I listen to your show when I can. Sometimes it's not the right time, but in the car, sometimes I have YouTube playing, and it's always nice to hear your story and can see your community growing. On this, have a wonderful evening, all of you. I have my podcast every Wednesday at 7:30 on at Toronto time, so same time, and it's usually between 15 minutes and 30 minutes just to share some amazing ideas. On this, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.